you said, I mean, they went in and they gutted the freaking company out. Um, they privatized it, um, and
Mhm.
and when you privatize it, it takes them off the stock market. You know what I mean? It make them ineligible for the stock market.
Mm.
So it was basically um, privatized, and this is a global. Uh, CDK isn't just United States based; they're global. You know what I mean? Um,
Okay.
that's why they're called CDK
Yeah.
Global. So and they went private, and what I found out was they went in and they what did I call it? Um, fuck was it? It. Let me find it real quick. Yeah, because what happened was is they ended up freaking going private, and they became a private equity. That's what it is, and they did that in April of
Okay.
2000. Yeah, they did it in April of 2022, and
Yeah.
this is where shit starts getting suspicious. Brookfield Business Partners, together with institutional partners, entered into a an agreement, and they acquired CDK Global for a total enterprise value of $8.3 billion. Now, it was suggested that Brookfield buying CDK Global and making it a private equity. Um, by doing that, they stripped away security protocols that could have prevented the ransomware attacks. Okay, and the they say that that's standard procedure when it comes to turning freaking a corporation like that into a private equity. The first thing they do is they go into the freaking business and they strip it down. You know what I mean? They stripped away the security protocols and everything, and they work from the ground up. You're still there, right? No, he backed out. So, um, and that's what I've ended up finding out about it. You guys have to be patient with us. We are having some issues with the audio or the video mostly, but I'm checking the audio, making sure that everything's okay. Now, that was one of the issues that I had. Now, Brookfield Business Partners, like I said, was the parent company of CDK Global. Now, they experienced a significant ransomware attack too. All right, although CDK's global operations were harmed, Brookfield Business Partners uh, did not as consider it material enough to report what had happened to the Securities and Exchange Commission, which is the SEC, uh, under new rules for reporting breaches, which is something that is required here in the United States. It looks like Mark finally made it back in. And I'm kind of glad that I had to do this because this was something that me and Mark had been talking about, or I brought it up in the last one that we weren't able to record. So um, let's see if he's on there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm back, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So now I mentioned Brookfield Business Partners, okay, and that's the parent partner company. Um, I went
Yeah.
through and I was talking about how what had happened was they became a freaking private equity firm. Okay.
Mm.
And I explained how what I had found out that is these private equity firms, whenever they buy like a huge corporation and then privatize it like that, the first thing they do is they go in and they freaking gut out all the security protocols. And from what I've heard,
Yeah.
that's standard practice for a lot of these corporations whenever they do that. What's your do you know much about that when it comes to how private equity firms deal with?
I looked at the company. A lot of these companies will split the their um, child company up into smaller companies.
Okay.
Um, but yeah,
So so basically, yeah, you're talking about freaking here in the United States we call them freaking um, well, I forgot what the name was, but it's basically a hack and slash job. They
yeah, yeah.
buy up a big corporation and they just cut it down to pieces.
Mm,
And that's basically what you're talking about right there,
mm.
right? I mean, I could be wrong, but is that what you're basically talking
Yeah,
about?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay. Now, what happened was Brookfield Business Partners also, previous to freaking what had happened with CDK, I believe, in 1990 or April of 2022 is when they, together with institutional partners, um, acquired CDK Global, and they did that for $8.3 billion. Now, that is when I found out from another source who did a, a video on YouTube, and she was a part of she was a part of a accounting group that was involved in the actual car dealerships, and she did I believe it was either a video or a blog, maybe both. But she was talking about what happens when these equity firms take over freaking big corporations like that, because she's had to deal with it, you know. And she says the first
Mm.
thing that happens is they freaking um, well, like they bought CDK Global, okay, and then they made it into a private equity, and then
Yeah.
after that they stripped away every security protocol, and they started from
Mm,
the ground
yeah.
up with it. And she said that that's protocol for every company they buy. You know, most of these firms do that
Okay.
automatically, and that's what I learned from her. So that was interesting when I heard about that. Um, then after that, this supposed ransomware happened. Okay, and
Mm,
when that happened, I did some more digging and I found out Brookfield Business Partners also had a significant ransomware attack. Okay, but they decided that uh, Brookfield Business Partners didn't consider it material enough to report it to the Securities and Exchange Commission.
yeah.
And this is where we were talking about. There are new rules for reporting breaches that are in
Mm,
place with the SEC. Okay, that's another suspicious thing that happened there that never got reported. You know, so anybody who's on here listening, you know, this is the first time you're probably going to hear about that, because I don't remember anybody bringing that up when it happened. You know, that's how smart I am.
actually, no, it was reported at least in the UK, in certain circles. I saw quite a few UK tech channels and maybe two US um, YouTube tech channels talking about it at the time.
You talking about Brookfield Business Partners, or are you talking about CDK?
Yeah,
Which one?
the CDK incident. CDK.
Okay, no, I'm talking about Brookfield Business Partners when they had um,
Okay.
attack. They also had one, but they didn't feel that it was. material enough to report it to the Security and Exchange Commission.
Yeah.
And this
Yeah,
was
but it was reported. Both were reported about at depending on who you watch.
probably after the investigation on CDK Global started. That's when they fessed up to it. You know,
Okay, maybe.
but they kept it quiet because they ended up, from what it sounds like, they ended up paying this ransomware, and because there's a big thing going out now where these corporations would rather pay the freaking ransom than to actually go after the freaking criminals doing it, because they would lose more money if they did that rather than just give them the
Yeah,
money they want and let it go. So for them, it's
but
better.
any company who's got who knows what they're doing will have better policies in place anyway beforehand.
Now, another incident involved Brookfield Residential Properties, a wholly owned division of Brookfield Asset Management, which admitted to being victimized by an unspecified cyber attack. Now, Brookfield Residence Properties, which is a wholly owned division of Brookfield Assets Management, which is BAM, they did acknowledge a cyber attack in 2020. Unauthorized access to a limited subset of files occurred, prompting immediate action to restore affected systems and implement additional security measures. Now, the incident affected internal employees and company, no, and the company and security measures. Well, no, wait, the incident affected internal employees, and the company reached out to those whose information had been assessed. Now, Mr. Robot, the last time we tried this, came in and he said that he had more information on this. So basically, what they did is they paid these employees off with hush money, and then they turn around and they gave them security systems to freaking back up their systems. Like, oh, and we're giving you extra security now because you were hacked. You know what I mean? So it was kind of a bullshit.
Yeah.
It was pretty shitty, you know. From what that's why I said I wish that we really didn't freaking lose all that. But that's the basic whole story about what's going on there. And
Yeah.
I also found out too that these guys had another incident that that a group called Darkside claimed responsibility for a ransomware attack against Brookfield, but they didn't specify which division was targeted. Now, the parent company emphasized that Brookfield Residential operates independently on a separate network from the parent company. Now, CDK Global, an automotive data provider, suffered a cyber attack incident that disrupted operations across the U.S. and Canada. The company, that company right there, was purchased by Brookfield Business Partners in 2022. So you're looking at a 2-year difference right there where this stuff happened. You're looking at like a 2-year time difference where this stuff happened.